Hello, everyone, and welcome to the June Assessment and Accountability webinar. This is Kevin Chandler, the Director for Assessment. As always, a few housekeeping notes. Everyone joining today is muted, but if you have questions during the presentation, you can send them to us through the Q&A box shown here. Simply type in your question and click Send. We have posted our presentation as a document, so you can download and follow along. Our presentation is also being recorded, and it will be posted on our website, along with a transcript of the presentation. Okay, let's get started. To start, I wanted to mention that we have posted a preliminary school year 22-23 assessment training windows PDF on the SDE Assessment and Accountability webpage. Again, this is a preliminary document. More dates for more testing windows will be added as they become available. Next, I wanted to give you a heads up for what we're anticipating for ISAT testing in school year 22-23. First are the anticipated summative blueprints. For ELA and math, the SDE is electing to go back to the full summative blueprints. These full summative blueprints will include a few more items on the CAP portions of those summative ISATs. Electing to go back to full summative blueprints will provide educators with student-level, claim, and target performance data. For the science summative ISATs, we are anticipating no changes to the blueprint. Keep in mind that field test clusters and standalones will continue to be included on the Spring 23 summative science ISAT. Second is remote testing for school year 22-23. For the interims, the remote interim testing site will still be available on the Idaho portal. This app allows students to remotely take an interim test using a conventional web browser. For the summatives, anticipate no remote testing capabilities in spring 2023. This means that students will not have audio and/or visual connections to a test administrator in order to take their spring 2023 summative test. Third is the ability of teachers to administer the ISATs to their own students. The SDE is continuing the option to allow teachers to administer the ISATs to their own students. Again, this is optional. Documentation at the district, school, and/or teacher level in the test incident log will still be required prior to. And of course, all training, certifications, and non-disclosure agreement signings will also still be in place. And with those updates, I'll pause for questions.
There are currently no questions.
Excellent. I'll throw it over to Paul for a NAEP update.
I'm back, ready to talk about NAEP and answer questions if needed. In the fall of 2019, Idaho completed participating in LTT 13. That's the long-term trend. And now, in the fall of 2022, Idaho is participating to get the post-assessment data for age 13. Initial district notifications have been sent. If you did not receive a notification, that means that your district will probably not be participating in this assessment. Going forward to NAEP springtime, the National Center of Education Statistics and the National Assessment Governing Board are beginning to explore the options of device-agnostic assessment, as well as assessment using the school's internet. These steps are necessary for two reasons. One, more students are transitioning to online learning in the public school system nationally. Two, reduced costs. NAEP is looking into using Chromebooks rather than the already used Surface Pros. They're also looking at using online systems, so no matter what device the student is on, they can easily take the assessment. Reaching out to schools will look exactly like it does in a normal NAEP year. I will soon receive a list of districts that were selected and will send out notifications when I have more information. Idaho was selected for two more assessments in the spring. HIMSS is the Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study, and ICILS is the International Computer and Information Literacy Study. There will be very few schools selected. As always, contact me with any thoughts and/or questions. I look forward to hearing from you.
Chandler, will teachers administering remote have to take separate TA certs?
So for the interims, we will have the remote interim testing site available. The remote interim testing site just allows students to log in with that conventional browser in order to take their tests remotely. So if teachers are administering their remote interims with using that particular app, they will have to take that remote TA certification course.
When will the 22-23 TAM be available?
That is an excellent question. So if you're asking about the summative TAM for spring 23 testing, that is usually published the month prior to starting, which would be February 2023.
Will we be able to get individual student target reports with the full ISAT this next year?
Excellent question. Yes, because we're going to be switching back to the full summative blueprints, educators will be provided individual student level claim and target performance data.
Will the summative ISAT for 2023 reflect the new Idaho content standards?
No, it will not. Educators will need an opportunity to teach to the standards before we start assessing them.
That is all the questions currently.
Excellent. So I'll throw it over to Paul for the ELPA update.
Good morning. Andrew Bennett is traveling this week and cannot be here, so I, Paul Kleinert, will present information around the English Language Proficiency Assessment on his behalf. The Advancing Alternate English Language Learning Assessment Project is examining instructional practices and policies for English learners with significant cognitive impairments. Within the assessment realm, the project will produce a refreshed alternate access test form for grades 1 through 12, a new kindergarten alternate access form, and an alternate screener form. In order to develop these new alternate access test forms and screeners, Idaho LEAs who have ELLS who qualify to complete an alternate assessment will administer a standalone field test during the 2022-2023 school year. It is important to note that the field test will be in addition to the alternate access test administration. The field test window will be held from February 14 to April 17, 2023. Training for the alternate access for ELLS field test will be added onto the alternate access for ELLS training and certification quizzes modules starting on September 1st, 2022. Idaho LEAs who receive an alternate access for ELLS test form during the regular 2022-2023 access for ELLS test window will automatically receive field test materials prior to the field test window. More information and trainings around the standalone field test will be forthcoming at the beginning of the 2022-2023 school year. A list of the 2022-2023 ELPA training webinar topics have already been posted to the ELPA webpage under the Trainings tab. As a reminder, you can import the dates, times, and webinar links to your calendar by selecting the green floppy disk icon above the details page after you have selected the training webinar topic you would like to attend. And although I sound very knowledgeable about this topic, I am not Andrew Bennett, so please send any questions to Andrew's email or call him.
There are currently no questions.
Perfect.
Excellent. I'll throw it over to myself for some ISAT updates. I'll begin with the IDAPA rules cited here, stating that assessment results must be sent to parents within 3 weeks of receipt from the state. As soon as those ELA and math summative ISAT results are in reporting, you can consider them received from the state. To help with the different functionalities of reporting, our testing vendor has created several mini modules, one of which is how to print ISRs and student data files, and posted them in the resources section of the Idaho portal. With regards to our science ISAT results, remember that in spring 22, the grades 5, 8, and 11 science ISATs were operational field tests. We will be setting the proficiency standards for our science ISATs in July 2022, with board approval slated for August 2022. To accommodate the printing of those science ISRs, we are working with our test vendor to create the ISAT Science ISR Quick Guide. That resource will be published to the Idaho portal soon. Shifting gears back to the ELA and math ISATs, remember to access the target reports on the Idaho portal. Input the proficient and weak or strong symbols from the summative ISATs into the ELA and math target reports for your district, school, or roster. The target reports then automatically summarize that data so that educators can quickly identify which targets students are performing well on and which targets students need more work on. The target reports also include links to the Smarter Content Explorer for an in-depth examination of the standards within the target, links to the interim assessment item portal for a list of interim items aligned to that target, and links to the Interim Connections playlist on Tools for Teachers. A user guide for the target reports is also posted on the Idaho portal under Resources. Links to all of these resources are also embedded in this slide. A big thank you to everyone that has signed up to participate in our IDAA, ELA, Math, and Science, and ISAT Science Proficiency Standard Setting Conference. This is a virtual event that will be held the week of July 18th, with standards being set for specific assessments during specific dates and times. Please see the slide on the screen now for those specific dates and times. The Idaho SDE is sending out acceptance letters for all the meetings, so please watch your inbox for those acceptance letters. The ISAT participation appeals window is slated to open in July 2022. The participation appeals site is accessible on the Assessment Accountability's portals and platforms page shown here. Access the school year 21-22 participation appeals user guide for a heads up on the required documentation for appeals. A school year 22-23 guide will be published very soon. Our Public Finance Department has created and posted the fiscal year 23 special distributions document and posted it at the link embedded in this slide. As needed, work with your business managers to provide them the necessary student performance data from reporting. Lastly, for those that need it, our interim ISAT summer test window is open now until July 29. The remote interim site is available, and all school year 21-22 ELA and math interims are available. Just a heads up though, that a few new science interims are available right now with updated answer keys being posted very soon. And with those updates, I will pause for questions.
Where is the target report worksheet? It seems difficult to find.
The target reports and the target reports user guide are both located on the Idaho portal within the resources section. I usually just put in the search term there, target reports, and that pulls up both the user guide and the ELA and math target reports.
Is the decision to not offer remote summative ISAT testing the state's or Idaho's testing vendors?
That decision came from the SDE.
Should we save the documentation that ISAT parent reports have been sent out, and then for how long should we keep this documentation?
Definitely keeping the documentation will be good. We'll double check on the time frame and put that in the answers for the Q&A.
Now there are no questions.
Excellent. So Karen could not join us today, so I will be sharing her information about the Idaho Alternate Assessment Participation Appeals. Most of your IDAA participation appeals will follow the policies and procedures outlined in the Participation Appeals User Guide. You can download the user guide from the Assessment Appeals Application Welcome page, as illustrated in the screenshot on this slide. Today, the 2021 Participation Appeal Guide is posted to the Assessment Appeals Application Welcome page. Most of the information in the 2021 User Guide is still relevant, except for the COVID-specific information. The 2022 Participation Appeals User Guide will be posted very soon. We recognize that some students who qualified for the IDAA could not come to a school building to take the IDAA because they were medically fragile or had a significant underlying health condition, making it unsafe for them to come to school. If you anticipate submitting a medical emergency appeal for any students in this situation, then the school must include a current and specific doctor's note with the participation appeal before it will be considered. The doctor's note should include the student's condition, the reason said condition prevents student from coming to the school building to take their test, the doctor's signature, and dates within the current school year, September 2021 to May 2022. Participation appeals for students in this situation that lack sufficient medical documentation will be denied. Karen also shared this information during the February webinar. Karen wants to thank everyone for all that you do and to remind you that we are almost there.
The funding for students that are not proficient on the ISAT that you mentioned, is that funding we will receive based on student performance on the 2022 ISAT or the 2023 ISAT?
That funding will be based on student performance on the spring 2022 ISAT.
There are currently no other questions.
Excellent. I'll throw it over to myself for an IRI update. To repeat the information that was given in the April and May webinars, remember the important update on literacy funding and economically disadvantaged identification. To enact the provisions of HB 790, we asked schools to provide additional data on students who are economically disadvantaged. This is due to the fact that 50% of the funding that is tied to student performance on the IRI is weighted an additional 0.75 for students who are identified as economically disadvantaged. We have been asked that you use either a free and reduced application or an income survey if possible to provide this data to maximize your funding. For this data to be included and to streamline the process for schools, instead of uploading this information into the Istation platform, it will be uploaded into IC in both your May and end of year files and be used by the state to inform literacy funding allocations. Public School Finance expects to distribute this portion of the funding early next school year. On this slide is a link to the IC data monthly submission schedule. As mentioned during the ISAT section of our webinar, our Public Finance Department has created and posted the fiscal year 2023 special distribution document and posted it at the link embedded in this slide. As needed, work with your business managers to provide them the necessary student performance data from Istation. And speaking of IRI student data, there are several useful reports on the Istation site. The one shown here is the level movement report. That and other reports are available on the password-protected Istation site. Lastly, looking forward to fall 2022, the IRI test window is set for August 1 to September 30, 2022. And with those updates, I will pause for any IRI questions.
Since the formula is so different, when do we expect to know an estimate of the amount? It's hard to do budgets without knowing the anticipated amount.
So looking into Istation can give you a good estimate for the number of students that either moved levels or stayed at the proficiency level. And our Public Finance Department has worked on that special distributions form that is posted on their site. And we are also currently working on the student data file in order to get that information out as quickly as we can.
To clarify, IRI must be administered in either August or September, not blended within a district, correct?
Not really sure I understand the question, but the fall 2022 IRI test window is set for August 1 to September 30th. So administering the IRI during that time will count as the fall administration.
There are currently no other questions.
Excellent. I will throw it over to Valerie for an accountability update.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad you can join us today on this glorious spring day, soon to be summer. I'm Valerie Steffen, Accountability and Reporting Coordinator with the Accountability Division of the Idaho State Department of Education. First, the engagement surveys. You're now able to download both summary and disaggregated reports of your schools and districts' summary data. You'll be able to identify key trends at both school and district levels and see findings in disaggregated groups. Access them by logging in to your eProve account, cognia.org, and clicking on the Reports tab. As always, contact Cognia Client Care via email or phone for help with technical questions. I have emailed institutions about the availability of these reports last month and the month before. To inspire you to look at your own available reports, I'll give you an overview of what we've seen at a statewide level across the past few years. Here you see the statewide proportion of students across all grades who were identified as engaged in each of the 3 reporting years. You can see that the engagement proportion has declined 12 percentage points since 2018 from 65% to 58%. Actually, that's 53%. And while the number of responding students has increased. How will your schools and your district's findings compare? What has been the contribution of COVID on the statewide numbers, if any, and on your findings? Download your reports from eProve to learn more. Questions?
Valerie, will there be engagement surveys next year? I don't see this on the assessment calendar for 22-23.
Probably. Yes. It's unclear yet, though, whether they will be fulfilling the requirement as an index of school quality. There is under consideration by the board, a State Board of Education, the possibility that that chronic absenteeism will be replacing the survey findings as the index of school quality. Nonetheless, it's my understanding so far that the State Department of Education plans to offer the survey to schools who wish to use it.
Last year, we could send a ticket in Otis to receive the student open-ended comments for the student engagement survey. Of course, the results were anonymous. We didn't know which students wrote what. We could see which building or other information, so we could share with leaders. Will we be able to request these files again?
Yes, you will.
Chandler, back to the IRI question. So to clarify, IRI must be administered in either August or September, not blended within a district. Because the cut scores are different from August to September, it has been in the past that all IRIs within a district were supposed to be administered in either August or September. Will this continue to be the case?
Yes, that will continue to still be the case.
Are we expected to send tier movement numbers to the SDE, or is that data going to be pulled from Istation for the 22-23 new allocation?
For the new allocations, the SDE will perform those calculations, so you do not have to send that information to us.
That is all the questions for now.
Okay, excellent. Valerie also has a college entrance exam update.
As my second appearance on the webinar this month, I'm reporting on the college entrance exams on behalf of Ika Nkui, newly named Director of Accountability. There's a new development in the college entrance exams, which we're preparing to implement by fielding a survey to districts and charter schools. We're asking LEA leaders to complete a survey for your district or charter school about your choice of ACT suite or the SAT suite of college entrance assessments. That's because starting in school year 22-23, Idaho State Department of Education will likely provide you free of charge either the ACT suite of college entrance exams, in other words, the ACT and pre-ACT, or the SAT suite, in other words, the SAT and PSAT and MSQT. This 5-minute survey, we've invited district leaders and charter school administrators to complete, asks which college entrance exam suite, the ACT or SAT, your district or charter will probably want, and approximately how many students are likely to take each assessment. Answers will help inform SDE's early planning. Your responses are just your best estimates and will not commit you to a final decision. We emailed invitations to the 5-minute e-survey on June 1 to all 183 district superintendents and charter school administrators. The survey is open through June 15. As of today, June 8, 2022, we had already received 69 responses, a terrific 38% response rate. Thank you very much. We're shooting for 100% to help us plan most effectively. So if you haven't yet completed the survey and received an invitation to do so, please do so at your earliest convenience. If you're a district superintendent or charter school administrator with 10th or 11th grade students, please be alert to this email and please respond. The email will come from Kevin Chandler, SDE, with the non-reply qemailserver.com email address. It will come with the subject line, choice of ACT versus SAT in SY 2022-23 survey. Please respond if you receive an invitation. If you haven't seen the email, please look for it in your junk email box. If you still don't find the invitation, please contact Kevin Chandler at kchandler@sde.idaho.gov. We'll get it to you. And just a note about those asterisks next to the from. The State Department of Education has adopted a new powerful survey tool by Qualtrics. It's distributed from the email nonreply@qemailserver.com and will always have an SDE staff person's name preceding that address. If you see such a survey in your inbox in the future, you can do one of two things. Either click the link in the survey offered in the box, in the body of the email text and complete the survey, or if you're feeling uncertain, you can click reply to the email and ask the named person, in this case, Kevin Chandler, to respond to you confirming the authenticity of the survey. If it's actually from us, you will receive a response email from the named from person reassuring you of the survey's validity. And now here I am again reporting on behalf of ICANCUI, this time about the user satisfaction survey, about your experiences with the College Board and SAT. In May, we distributed an e-survey, again, Qualtrics, via email and with a hot link on our accountability webpage. We received 144 completed surveys. Of those, 131 were responses to the email invitation, representing a respectable 36% response rate. Thank you to everyone who replied either by email or on the web. Findings, preliminary findings, I will say, show widespread satisfaction. 2/3 were either extremely satisfied or very satisfied, just 4% not at all satisfied. Having read many of the open ends about both strengths and opportunities for improvement, I know they're thoughtful and will be especially helpful in guiding improvements next year. Analyses and report will be complete in July.
Will remote summative testing in spring 2023 be available for students in grades 9 and 10, since these grades are not required to test?
For spring 23 summative ISAT testing, anticipate that no remote testing will be available in any grade.
There are currently no other questions.
Excellent. Thank you everyone for attending. While we're waiting for any last-minute questions, let me go ahead and let you know that our next webinar will be 10 a.m. Mountain on Wednesday, August 10. Links to register for the school year 22-23 webinars will be posted on the Assessment Accountability's redesigned homepage under the Connect with Us heading. Any final questions before we wrap up?
Not a question, but a request from Dave Harrison. West Ada is looking for other districts that used the Windows Take a Test app as their secure browser for ISAT testing. We would like to know how it worked for you. If your district used this app and you would be willing to discuss how it went, would you reach out to harrison.david@westada.org, please?
We will include the questions and answers with the materials that we post. Watch for a video, a PDF of the PowerPoint, and the questions and answers later this week. We will need time to make the documents accessible. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day.